The brain, the gut, the heart, and the nervous system are being shown to be the predictors of our health. If having real health is of interest to you, please listen to learn more, and welcome to the Brain Gut Connection podcast. Your host, Dave Bredhauer, will guide you through how everything inside us is connected, from our brain to our heart to our gut, how they all communicate, and how important your immune system is to this entire process. The Brain Gut Connection podcast. Let us get right into today's episode.
It's time for a quick gut check, literally. Have you ever wondered if there's a direct line from your brain to your gut? Spoiler alert, there is. And we've got all of the inside scoop waiting for you in the Brain Gut Connection newsletter. Every month, we dive deep into the stuff no one else is talking about, or maybe they just don't have the guts to. We're covering the real deal behind what's happening in that brain-gut highway, unpacking the science, the myths, and the little tricks that can make you feel a whole lot better. You'll find answers to questions like, is my gut messing with my mood? Or can what I eat last night really affect my focus today? Spoiler alert, again, it can. So if you're ready to keep your brain and gut in harmony and maybe discover why they argue sometimes, head on over to www.braingutconnect.com/subscribe to sign up for the Brain Gut Connection newsletter. Your brain, your gut, and trust me on this, your whole body will thank you. Go on, give your gut a break. Welcome to the Brain Gut Connection podcast. I'm your host, Dave Bredhauer, and today we're joined by a fascinating guest, Darshan Pindoria, a psychologist with over 10 years of experience in both Eastern and Western psychology. Darshan has conducted more than 500 counseling sessions and has helped 170 plus clients unlock the deeper truths of their mind. He blends his rich knowledge of Eastern traditions, gathered from training with yogis in India, with modern psychological practices to create a unique and impactful approach to mental well-being. Today, we'll explore the intricate workings of the mind, tackle anxiety, and discuss how understanding both Eastern and Western psychological perspectives can benefit your mental health. Prepare to delve deep into how our thoughts shape our emotions, behaviors, and ultimately your well-being. Welcome to the show, Darshan. Looking forward to our conversation.
Great to be here. Thanks, Dave.
My pleasure, man. So let's jump into it. So if you would, let's talk about your journey into psychology, as well as where did you make the decision to blend both Eastern and Western practices?
Fair enough. So essentially, until the age of 14, I wasn't the most well-behaved kid. And my parents did used to struggle to keep me in line, kept getting issues with school, etc. But then a Hindu temple opened just near my house. And I kind of got in with the community there, got in with some friends over there. And then slowly I started getting introduced to a bit of my roots, a bit of where I came from in India, a bit of the philosophy behind that. And it was always in my head that one day I want to go out to the ashram, the hermitage in India, and do a bit of time there. So 2010 came, there was a big festival, around 1 million people got together. So I ended up going there for a month. I bumped into a yogi. This yogi, I connected well with him. He was into meditation. I thought, okay, let me find out what all this meditation stuff is. And then he said, it's not something you talk about, it's something you try. And he says, everyone gets a free sample. So I somewhat got my free sample. It's a practice that he gave me. It's you sit down, he guides you with a few things to contemplate on, and then he lets you sit there until you feel what you're meant to be feeling. It's different for everyone. And then I kind of got my dosage at that time. And then I was pursuing a career in IT, but after that moment, I got really connected with this yogi, and I changed to psychology. So I came back, signed up for a psychology degree, pulled off 4 years studying psychology. But with me, when I was studying psychology, I always had it in the back of my mind, I want to go back to the ashram and sit with these yogis and really, really challenge them with my new and updated knowledge. And it's kind of an ego. You could call it it's I thought I'm gonna go there and show them as such. I thought, yeah, I'm the guy with the degree now. And oh, so it's one of those I was studying. I used to study in and around the course as well because we had access to the library. I was heavy into the topic. I was just so into the whole way the human mind works and how to explain aspects of it. And what happens in modern day psychology, you end up doing it for exams, things like that. So I found exams a lot easier. It was kind of free flowing. I did get lazy on certain aspects, but there were certain topics that really used to get to me, and it's around thought itself, how thought works, where it comes from, and how to identify thought and how to slow it down, speed it up. Those type of topics relate to thought, and this whole thing, because it was my day in day out, it was everything you're reading about is just psychology. So yeah, then 4 years passed, got my degree, and then it was time to go back to the ashram. So I wanted to pull off a year in India. So this is me living a simple life. We shave our head, we wear two robes, we wake up 2:30 in the morning, bath in the lake, go do some yoga practices, and then we got the whole day. We go village to village doing social reform work, and in and around that time, there's 230 yogis that I'm living with that I get to learn from. And the one, I call him my psychology trainer. Me and him, we used to get off to good conversations. I used to pop up topics of how modern day psychology talks about the fundamental attribution error. What is it? And then I thought I was gonna be the one teaching him. Oh yeah, this is how it works, and he had me on everything. He had the upper hand. He's 66 years old. He knows his topic. He knows the scripture side of things, and he's really practical with it. The examples he gives, he knows how to dumb it down for me. He was having me know nothing in my degree was helping me at this point. Just one example. Just the first thing I do is sit down with him, and he's like, "Okay, you've done a degree, so tell me what a thought is. What is a thought? How do you know you have thought of something?" And I don't know. No matter what I look for in the books, I could even Google it. No dictionary, no nothing. I did a whole psychology degree, but that one topic didn't come up. How to identify what is a thought? So psychology, they've got mixed variations to say, oh, you have this many thoughts in a minute. You've got this is a thought. This is how your thoughts are going wrong, but you don't know how to identify a thought. What is it? How does it work? How do you know if you're thinking fast or slow if you don't know what a thought is? And then, like I said, he was having me on everything: sleep, breathing, just basic stuff. He was just, what is happiness? I had a 6-hour conversation with him because once I started the conversation, I couldn't stand up. And he doesn't give me the answer either. He makes me work for it. And yeah, that's like I said, I got a few lucky individuals that I got to sit with.
You piqued our curiosity. What is a thought?
So a thought is recalling anything from your five senses, and it's not a topic. So babies, they think in imagery. Then they start learning words. Then they start thinking in words, and then they start picking up touching. So they might swallow stuff, and all it is a recall process. And then what you do with your recall process is you start matching it up, and that's all that thinking is essentially. There's no you can't say it's a memory. You can't say you know exactly what you can't say you've got a massive storage either. It's your thought is just so fast. It could go from, there's no such thing as two thoughts at one time either. There's only fast thinking. So it's then there's all these examples to go with it. So it's like I said, he made me work for it, but
yeah, that's deep. So it starts off as a sensory perception.
yeah. So
as a child, right?
mind, if you think of mind as just a processing unit, whatever you put in, it's just going to process. The mind doesn't have a way to fake imagination. You can't just make up something out of nowhere. It's made up something based on what's going in through eyes, ears, nose, skin.
So it starts off as a five senses perception, right?
Yeah.
And then based you start off as a infant,
Yeah,
clean slate.
exactly.
touch, you smell, you hear, you see, you start accumulating knowledge,
Yeah, yeah,
and then something happens and that generates the thought.
exactly. So if you think about it right now, if I slow your breathing down, it slows your thinking down. Now, if I speed up, so you know when someone gets angry, all of a sudden they're breathing fast and they're having a lot of cut off thoughts. So in Sanskrit we call it sankap and vikap. So a thought and then the change of a thought. So all we're doing is having a thought and we're cutting off that thought with a new one. So we never actually develop our thought. We never actually give attention to anything. And this is where the art of meditation, if we want to know how to meditate, we have to know what we're going to be hit with when we close our eyes. So when we close our eyes, we've got all this stuff going on, and we don't know what it is until we know exactly what a thought is, how to manipulate that thought, and then take it wherever you want to take it.
Wow, this is a deeper conversation, Darshan, than I was expecting to have with you, dude. Uh,
But it's, like I
let's
said, imagine if I was to learn this in modern day psychology. We can't put an exam to this. We can't put textbook theory to this because it has to be on a one-to-one basis of how you identify your own thoughts. The way I identify my own thoughts, it's going to be through visuals, maybe. The way you might do it, it might be from scenes that you've got, or it might just be sounds. It might be actual feelings. It might even be a whole emotional love story that we put behind our thoughts. It's yeah, understanding thoughts. It's your own journey, and then I got to take that own journey, and I had someone to bounce my ideas off, to bounce my references. Every session that I have someone to speak to about that.
Well, you spent 4 years in college, training to be a psychologist, learning to be a psychologist,
Yeah.
and then you have an ego, and you went east.
Yeah,
Uh,
so the first thing I was taught on my day one is you came as something, you need to leave as nothing. And then that got me all confused. I thought I'm coming here to gain something, gain something. But then it still plays on my head till this day. It's the fact that when you're able to clear out, if you become weightless, and when you become weightless, is a whole different perspective. It's a fresh feeling, and to do that, it's yeah. No matter what I've done, it humbles you. It definitely it changes everything. I can't tell you. And then I'm there. I'm living an elevated mindset. My first thing to do is fix your gut health. That's first thing. Day one. This is you need to clear out your system. Make sure everything's nice and pure. You're gonna be eating a lot more pure food. The first thing. I went to India. I got a bit constipated because of the whole change of diet, etc. So then I had a whole cleaning process to do. So get everything cleaned out, lubricate the gut again with natural cow ghee, things like that, and then my energy just started coming alive. So I started going from waking up at 5:30, and I got it down to 2:30, and that was unheard of. And I'm waking up, I'm going to sleep around 10:30, 10:15, 10:30. We go sleep. Wake up 2:30. We go bath in the lake around 3:15. We'll be bathing in the lake. Come back in wet clothes, and then yes, yeah, that's normal to them. And then I'm there. I just had to delve into that world, and then after I came out of that world, that's when I've started looking at this as an Eastern and Western perspective, and that's when I could join the dots together. Because when you're there, you're just living in it. It just feels like a second normal.
so, how- so, okay, so you spent a year in the ashram?
So it's a year in total. So I done 3 months the first time I went. Then I came back, gave my life out for another 2.5 years. Then went back for another 3 months. That's when I had a bit more questions, a bit more references to my name, and then I also had a rough time in life between those 2 years. Had a lot of failures, etc. Didn't really match the standard that I thought I would have in my mind. Then I went back. I said I'm not leaving until I'm fixed, basically. So, and then my psychology trainer said, "What's happened to you? You've deteriorated." So he got me all charged up. Then we used to have proper psychology training. I used to have fixed sessions with him, 6 hours a day. Sit down one place, don't move until the session's over. My brain used to get fried. It was Q&A, just back and forward. It was heavy, and then it was time to go back to the UK. That's when I started my psychology practice. So since then, been practicing psychology, really getting on well with my clients. And then I did go back for Himalaya trip after. So I went to do a trip in the Himalayas. That was good fun. Went with my psychology trainer. I was working out heavy because I knew I was going to be trekking up big mountains. And my psychology trainer, he's 66, so he's probably older than that. And he's got more stamina than me. I was in shock. He's like, it's all in the mind, my friend. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I topped up on experiences in my last 6 months in India. So yeah, it's like a second home, if that makes sense. It's like where I go to get charged up and then come back to the UK, practice as much as I can, and yeah, just keep connected with that psychology journey.
So let's talk about your practice today. If you would go into a little bit about, you mentioned gut health. How do
Yeah.
you deploy that in your practice?
So to be honest, I got lazy with gut health, and that's when my whole body slows down, and then your thought process, you start getting more cut thoughts, if that makes sense. You can't fill out a full line of thinking. You can't pay attention to something unless there's a lot of emotion behind it. You can't on purpose focus on a topic, and that's because of agitation coming through the diet. So the diet leaves the diet does a few things. So based on what I was taught, it's the pH of your stomach is a big factor. So if you've got a high pH or if you've got a high acidity level,
Right?
whatever you eat turns into energy a lot faster. So because you've burnt it a lot faster, that turns into energy a lot faster. That goes to your brain, and your brain gets a spike. And then after that spike's over, you go back to being lazy, essentially. So that's what happened to me. I had a high pH level. It's also a thing, even in our yoga practices, there's certain moves that cause a higher pH. There's a certain moves that neutralizes it, etc. And I was probably doing the wrong practice. It wasn't fit for my body type. So I only went and took that seriously this year. So I was in India for a month in March. I got my stomach acid all cleared out. They give you this natural plant. It grows on a tree. It's long and it has these black pellets inside. You boil it in water, it goes in, and it gives you. It basically sends all the water you drink for the 2 hours after that. It sends all that water down your number two. So then I drink 6 liters of water after. All the water clears out my system. And then I've got clean water coming out the backside after, basically. So that's cleared out all the pipes, and then they give me I drink a bit of rice water. Then I have mung dal with a lot of ghee in it that lubricates everything. And since then, my like I said, it takes 4 weeks, and then I started coming alive again. I came alive back to that time in 2014 when I was first in ashram. So yeah, that's my current practice. So make sure there's nothing sticky going inside. Make sure I'm able to go to a toilet once a day, clean. Everything should clear right in one go, that type of thing. And if it doesn't, then I know it's based on what I ate, or it might be my stomach acid level is going a bit too high. So just have stuff to neutralize it, or do the appropriate yoga moves.
So is this part of your practice with your clients is to first, I'm guessing it's a detox that you're going through, right? A cleanse?
So if I tell you a bit about my clients, there's one type of client that I get a lot more than, and I don't know why I do end up getting a lot more of these type of clients. It's the ones with high energy. So they're high energy individuals that are not using up that energy, and then it causes frustration around the house. They start having pressure cooker moments where they just burst, and they don't know why they're having it. The way I identify that is based on, if you get angry, does that anger clear within a short space of time, or does it stay on for a few days? If it stays on for a few days, if you annoy me and I'm frustrated for a few days, that means I got emotional tension. But if I'm cleared within an hour or two, or even instantly, if I get angry, have my burst, and then I'm fine straight after, that's a body-based tension. So that's that's energy not being used up, and that's energy being made in the wrong way. So that's something, if I do find out on a client, I'd make sure we adapt the lifestyle to make sure it adapts to their body type. If you've got a high energy body type and you basically got an overactive brain all the time, or you're kind of, it's like a spring, you're kind of compressing all this energy. That's what I go into, and then if the diet is an issue, we make sure we change up the diet, see if it helps them.
Okay, so let's talk about anxiety around mental health. How do you start to address anxiety?
So anxiety is the body's preparation for the unknown. Example sake, if a lion comes to you, you will be able to run for another 100 miles and not get tired, in theory, because anxiety generates a whole new power to your body. So it helps you digest food a lot faster. It powers you up to do a lot more physical activity. Now, if you're having anxiety and there is no physical activity to follow it, that anxiety is going to cause a knot in your stomach. And this is what we say so my psychology trainer, he quizzed me once. He said, what's the first part of the body you protect when you're in danger? I couldn't really answer. I said head, eyes, ears, arms, knees, whatever. Every answer I was getting was wrong. He said, it's your stomach. First thing everyone does is they lean forward. They crouch forward. And why is it your stomach? Because we say your life force is behind your navel. So when we're born, the umbilical cord, that's the only thing supporting us. So that life force, and this is what yoga is. If you look at all yoga, is bending forward and bending back at the belly. All yoga moves are just basically back and forward and twisting at the stomach, channeling a lot of stomach energy. And it's a heavily Eastern concept, but this whole concept of making sure there is a lot of freedom in your gut, a lot of loose. It should be all loose muscles. It shouldn't be tense. Everything should be nice and free flowing in the stomach. That's a big part of Eastern psychology, and this is what yoga does. A lot of that. Yoga's if you think about every yoga move, is it's near to clear anxiety in a physical instance. So this whole thing about anxiety, if you're getting tension around your stomach, then we really have to figure out, is your life actually in danger to the level that your body is preparing for, or is your physical activity and your diet not in match? So it's
Let's take a step back here for a minute. So, what are the key differences between the Eastern and Western psychology practices?
So Western psychology is heavy on the titles, and then it's like we're repairing the issue all the time. We're not going to the root of the issue. So it's and in Eastern psychology, it's just looking at the root. It doesn't look at any of the circumstances as such. So if I go to an Eastern psychology, if I go to a yogi, a Buddhist monk, a Shaolin monk, if I tell them I'm stressing about something happening at work, what do they hear? They hear that you are stressing. That's the issue. It's not what you're stressing about. That's got nothing to do with it. The real issue is, why is there stress being generated in you? It could be due to attachment issues. It could be due to unused energy. It could just be a whole thing about you haven't really understood yourself. So all of that is what we call at the core. That's the core of all psychology. And then when we go to the Western perspective, they deal with it from the outside in. Okay, set up your situation, have a rest. Is there some negative influences in your life? Is there something that you can't handle, etc.? It's a heavily outside in approach. It's and then in the simplest of descriptions, it's what we say. It's if psychology were human, the West have the feet and the East have the brain. So all these Eastern psychologists, they kind of sit there waiting for people to come to them, open up. But then in the West, everyone's going at this topic, giving out titles, giving out theories. They're giving out so much information about psychology, but they haven't linked it all into something a bit more at the root of the issue.
So if I may, you mentioned the feet is the
Okay.
West and the head is the Eastern.
Yeah,
In the middle is the gut.
yeah.
So am I on the right track
That's
here?
so the gut is if you think about it, it's in both, but no one addresses it first, if that makes sense. So even if you go to a psychologist, a therapist today, the medicine they will give you, there's always laxatives given. There's always some form of laxative given with antidepressants a lot of the time. Why is that? You can look into it's case by case, but there is an element of it, but it's not addressed directly. Same thing when you go to the East, diet is a huge part of psychology, but they don't directly attack it first. So everyone's got this topic that we know that the gut has to be nice and clean for you to know your natural psychology. If it's not nice and clean, you're working on a distorted psychology. You're working on a distorted thought process, distorted energy levels going to your mind. You might be having too many spikes, etc. So this is why the first thing that I done after studying psychology four or five times, going India 3-4 times as well. This year, the first thing that I done, I went straight to get my gut health cleared up. Because initially, no one talks about it first because no one even asks about it. Like imagine today is someone going to go to a therapist and say, I need my gut health in check. They're going to go straight to the situations in life. They start talking about everything else apart from the root cause of what's affecting thought.
Interesting. So you mentioned laxatives when addressing anxiety, right? So anxiety is a form of stress. Stress puts you in the fight or flight response. We know the fight or flight response shuts down digestion, right?
Yep.
Which would, of course, give you constipation, which you need something to address that. Okay.
So just generally speaking, tightness is caused by thought. So tight muscles, tight anything in the body is caused by thought. The way we could justify that is when you go for a massage, why do you feel mentally more free? You've been for a massage, that's a physical sensation. Why has it affected your mind? Because tension and physical tension and mental tension are fully linked. So same thing with the gut. If you've got mental tension, your gut is going to feel tighter as well.
Okay, so let's talk about what practical steps an average person could take to cultivate a healthier mindset.
Oh, so mindset, it's what we're saying in situations, which situations bring you alive the most? Are they bringing you alive based on your weakness or based on your strengths? Now, we talk about positive thinking, we talk about staying away from negative, etc. But I really need a client to understand why they are thinking about certain topics a lot more than other topics. Now, if you've got a habit of thinking about stuff from a point of weakness, you have to address that this is your style. You like to prepare for the worst most of the time. And some people, they like to attack whichever topic it is based on a point of strength. So me personally, I like to look at whatever I'm strong at and just do more of that. Think more about that, not really think about what I'm weak at. That's my style. Some people, they're always thinking about what they're not that good at. So they might go to work and be worried about, I'm going to do this because I'm not good at that. It's always, we could call it a negative perspective, but it's coming from a place of avoidance. Now, once you know what your strength is, then we could build up your whole thought process behind that. We could find out, are you an outward driven person, or do you like to do certain activities because it fulfills you physically as well? Then I don't need to question this client on whether they're going to do something after the session. I know they're going to do it because it naturally fits into their style. I don't like to go against someone's natural style, the way they've built themselves, the habits they've formed, the kind of culture they've got within their own mind. I don't like to change that. I like to find out what it is. I do the introspect on their behalf, and then I find out this is your style. It showed up 4 or 5 times in your life. Modern day psychology, we call it patterns. Eastern psychology, we call it something called samskar. So this is your programming. If I find out your programming, everything will feel a lot easier. Anything that I do for you, even if it's weight loss programs, if it's study programs, I'll do it to match your patterns, your psychology. Just really, really make it so normal to you.
So you mentioned when you feel alive,
Okay.
right? That was something you said, correct?
Yep.
So looking back in my past, the moments where I felt fully alive
Yeah.
was when I was having the BGC scared out of me.
Okay. Okay.
Now
So
I
avoid
was
it.
I was a
You
bit of
can.
an adrenaline junkie at one time,
Okay.
but being in a car accident, I mean, I felt, wow, that was, intense. Everything slowed down, stopped. I could see the glass going across really in slow motion, etc. I was being, I got hit on broadside, T-boned, and I was launched toward a truck. Truck was sitting there, and I could see the car impacting on his diesel tank, and of course that's going to flow. Diesel. I'm going to blow up. That's what I was seeing on my. Of course, I come to a stop just before I think I dented the gas tank there, but that was it. And then I went bear hunting one time, and I remember the guide coming in. There's a sow and a couple yearlings, cubs on the pile, the bait pile, and she was alert. I came down and he had me get on the back of his ATV to leave, and all I could think about was she's going to chase me down, grab me, and pull me off and eat me. So, but I mean, I was alert.
Yeah.
The senses were attuned, and then I come back to civilization, and you go back into your so.
So if I put that on an Eastern perspective, the first thing I would have been asked is why were you so attentive at that moment? What changed physically about you to become that attentive? Then I could get you to do that on purpose now. So
Wow.
first thing,
Wow.
yes. So if you introspect on it, what could have been the reason? First thing, you would have stopped breathing. Also, your belly button would have pulled inwards. So when we go on a roller coaster, we go over a high bridge, we get that pull in our stomach. That essentially it's a powerful force that sends energy straight through. We call it a chakra system, the chakras. So the 7 of those. It sends all the energy straight through, and your mind is at its most alert state. Now, in yoga or the meditators, they do this on purpose. So they go in, they could it's not that they stopped breathing, but they power themselves up from the core. It's a power that's in you. There's that power in you to become so focused. It's just about tapping it, essentially. So you remember when I said I got to have my first free taster? That's what it was. It's that level of attentiveness on a topic that I wanted to focus on. And my psychology trainer taught me how to do it on purpose.
So this is something one could be, as you just said, could be trained to recall
Yeah.
and
So
basically.
that's it's sad or dangerous type of experience you had. Imagine if you'd done that on a topic of true happiness or something that makes you amazingly happy. Now it's a power that's in you. It's not you've experienced it firsthand. You know that is a capability of you. Now all we're doing is we're just doing it on purpose.
Interesting. Interesting. So this conversation is really taking a deviation from what I was expecting to have with you, man. So let's talk about we're talking about mindfulness, right? So how can mindfulness improve both mental and physical well-being?
So if you think, when we say life flashed before your eyes in that moment of the car crash, that's what we call the ultimate mindful state. When your natural will to live has come to the surface. So we've got surface level mindfulness, just be aware of what's happening now, what's coming through the senses. But if you could be mindful to an emotional level of what emotional trauma is going on right now, what is your raw passion for living, that mindfulness state, that's really how you change who you are as a person. So I could, if someone wants to come for addictions, if they've got problems with in a relationship, etc., if we start going into it through speaking therapy, but what I'm looking for is the raw emotion for living. If I find out what actually helps, what actually gets them up, why they want to live another day, is it just for the sake of living? That's what we think it is. That's what the mind wants it to be, because we don't want to introspect to that level. But if we find that out, all of a sudden we've got that person's raw inbuilt nature is on that level. So this is what mindfulness, if you keep practicing, it'll get you there. Or you go through therapy, or you go through a yoga trainer, etc. Or you could go through an illness. That will get you there as well. So it's all methods to get to the same core message that's inside of you, your core will for living, essentially. And when we do meditation, first things first, close our eyes, all sorts of thoughts go on. Then we slow down those thoughts. Then we start seeing the passions that are coming through. So what things we're passionate about, those things start coming through. Those things, they come through with a bit of force as well. And then you've got to be able to take that force. Then once those clear up, then you start getting to the actual essence of why you do what you do, why you feel what you feel. Everything comes from that depth. And that's why I call myself Deep Psychology. This is how I structure it.
I was going to say, I've been in therapy, never did any of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Go back to your past, right? How did mom treat you? How did dad treat you? And how does that make you feel, right? How does that make you feel? How'd that make you feel? Never found it to be all that beneficial. Started doing personal development, and mindfulness comes to the fore. And I've experienced some phenomenal presence, being in the present moment, right? The power of now, Eckhart Tolle talks about. I had an experience a couple of years ago. I was doing a personal development course, and my mind just became clear. I could see things I'd never, you go down the same street every day, and you think you see everything, and you don't. There's so much you don't see. The blind spots, right? We know what we know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And what we don't know that we don't know is the huge, the majority of the pie, right?
Perfect.
So let's talk about how do you get your clients to shift their perspective from, living the old way to being mindful?
So every time that I got, it's if I ask them on the first session, what's to motivate you to even change? Where's the passions? When someone's coming from a state of depression, or when they're coming from a state of being down, I can't ask them the real questions, if that makes sense. So even on the East, when it comes to old literature, we always test and change the lifestyle first, because this is what we consider practical psychology. So you mentioned you've been to therapy before. Certain situations happen, they ask you how you feel. Then what I do is, once we've cleared the past, once we found out what's your style, then I'll set a 1 week plan for you. In that 1 week, every single day we're going to change. So from tomorrow, I'm going to make sure we're going to do everything that brings you alive, If it brings you alive, it stays. If it makes you feel a bit down, or it doesn't make you feel as energized, or you don't get the buzz out of it, there's no happiness to it, then we find out why certain things are not giving you happiness. Then I'm starting to get answers out of my client. Because if I do sit down therapy, they're not going to be able to give me these answers until they've tried something practically based on their style. Once I found out their style, then getting that person to shift is not not really a shift, it's more of the same after. So the aim of the game isn't to convince you that you need to change your life. The aim of the game is to show you what works for you, and then for you to want more of that. So if I let's just example sake, if I find out you're a high energy person and you're struggling to get to sleep at night, then I know I just need to shift your day 3 hours earlier into the morning. Then you'll be going to sleep on time and you'll be waking up early. And from that wake up time, now in the morning, I've got 3 hours to play with that I could put stuff into your life that makes you come more alive. And we're only doing this for 7 days. So once I've done this for 7 days, you know exactly your core, you know what gets you passionate, you know what works for you, you know how to turn yourself on a volume meter. You know how to turn the volume up, basically. And once I've done that, when that client comes back to me, we'll have a sit down. I could scope out their future goals, and they'll be happy with it. It'll feel natural to them. And now because the worst thing I could do is get into a game of trying to convince someone of something. In therapy we say if the client gives you the advice, it's a bonus. I don't need to say it. So because the client said it, they've suggested it. It saves me having to say it. I just need to make sure it matches everything that I've figured out about their past and what we figured out through the 7-day process.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you help people to change, right?
Okay.
Over 7 days. But isn't change the biggest obstacle we have?
Change, yeah. Everyone hates change. That's everyone wants more of the same. So at the end of the game, I'm trying to get them to want more of the same. But that same should be natural to them. They should naturally know. So just example sake, if I got a client that said, in my university days, I was most alive, that's them at their peak. I just need to tell them, you need to go back to everything that was good at uni, trigger that off into your day-to-day life right now. And then when it comes to going about the future, changing habits around the house, changing addictions, etc., it doesn't feel hard to them because they've got that uni version, maturity of today, put that together, and now changing smoking habits, etc., it becomes really easy to them because they're all alive now.
Interesting. This has been a very, very fascinating conversation, man. I'm sorry it has to come to a close. So
No, that's fine, yeah.
well, let's talk about we're discussing this, but let's drill down a little bit more. How do you help clients shift their perspectives when they feel stuck in negative patterns?
So this thing about negative patterns, no one actually likes to have them once they've identified them. So I don't need to convince them about changing it. I just need to convince them about changing. So changing it to anything. So if you've got let's just say you've got maybe a smoking habit or drinking habit, I'll get that person to just try different drinks, even if we know it's alcohol, but just different types. All of a sudden, that person starts just doing something differently, and then they start questioning why they were ever hooked on that certain drink that they had. Because all we do is we like to get comfortable and stagnate. And now I change that stagnation, and all of a sudden it gets them thinking. That thought process is what I could play with after. So I'm not trying to convince them to stop drinking. I'm just trying to convince them of changing, getting in a process of changing anything and everything freely. And that puts them in a state of control. They feel, yeah, I could control everything. Now I control what I do, control like my food habits or whatever. If they're not exercising, just change where you're sitting in the house. Start changing that little small wins, and put the person into a state of empowerment.
So I think my question here, I think you've touched on a number of times through this conversation. So what are some common misconceptions about psychology that you're looking to dispel with your work?
So titles are situational specific. That's not something people will talk about. So depression is situational specific. It's not person oriented. Depression isn't me as a person. It's me in certain situations. And same thing, anxiety is not me as a person. I don't suffer from anxiety. I suffer responding with anxiety to certain situations. Then it starts becoming part of you. So essentially, it started with a situation, then it became part of you. Really and truly, you yourself are an amazing person. And we can't talk about that because you're too busy talking about these titles that you're giving yourself. Same thing, OCD, ADHD,
Labels.
everything. It's all there. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that's not what the person is. So this is this is the dream. If I could hammer that message home, that you as a person, your psychology is also amazing. You've got amazing psychology. You just have certain situations you need to retune it.
Yeah, I in my past, I was given a lot of labels, right? Depressed, suicidal, et cetera, et cetera. And I've learned that's just that. It's a label. It's not who I am. Who I am is something different. Right? Just a situation I was in, and you move.
Imagine the freedom as well. It's the freedom from a label. It's amazing.
Yeah. Now, this has been a really interesting conversation. So unfortunately, we got to wrap it up. So
that's fine. Yeah.
You give to someone looking to start their journey towards better mental health using a combination of both Eastern and Western practices?
So it's always scope out your best situations in life and start studying your thought processes towards those situations, and go for the strengths, go for the things that bring you most alive. And if you don't, go on an experimental journey. There's always exploration to be done, but find out your strengths, your strongest activity, your strongest passion point in life, and work backwards from that. That's when you will find out your core emotions, your core psychology. You'll find the best patterns there. You'll find the best resources from that line of thought.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is discover your why.
So it's discover your why, but discover your strengths. So it's let's just say on your mind, you've got a certain amount of thoughts going on every day. When you don't have a situation on, like let's say when you're waiting in line for the doctor, put your phone away and see what thoughts come to your mind. There's going to be certain which thought that you could get more passionate about, which topic you could feel good about. Not what's on the news, not anything like that. What can you sit by yourself and just feel good about? From that, if you work backwards, you will find out your whole psychology, your makeup, and really what's going on.
Darshan, I want to thank you for the conversation, man. This has been very enlightening. I was expecting to have a gut health, and I'm glad we touched on it, but I'm glad we expanded past that because
gut health is like it's like a tick box on my side of things. Just make sure it's clean. It's fair enough. Some people they want to live by the gut health. It's a big topic. It's huge essentially, but if you do want to try yoga one day, do let me know. We'll do a bit of a live session of morning yoga. It'll be fun.
I embarrassed myself. Okay, well, I gotta let you go, man. Thanks very much for the call, the conversation. So I'm gonna say goodbye to the listeners. I hope you found as much value in talking to Darshan as I did. I'll be back soon with the next episode. Take care. Bye for now. Want to connect with the mind wizard himself, Darshan? You can shoot him an email at darshan@pixienite.com. That's PIXENITE.com. Or if you prefer to browse through his wisdom, head over to www.deepsc.com for all things psychology. Remember, folks, reaching out to experts can be a game changer, so don't be shy. Darshan might just be the one to help you unlock a few doors in that mind of yours.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Brain Gut Connection podcast. Stay connected with us directly through www.braingutconnect.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram @BrainGutConnection and YouTube. If you would like to speak with us, please send us an email to dave@braingutconnect.com. And as always, thank you for listening. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Until next time, stay happy, healthy, and educated.